Now let's move into the matchup with Clemson. Now you look at this matchup on paper, you see the rankings, you see number 1 Georgia, 14 Clemson. You're thinking this is going to be a really, really good game here. But Vegas odds makers, they see it a little different. They have Georgia as the 14-point favorites right now. One of the storylines that I've been reading about going into this game for Georgia is the situation at running back. So what is the latest that you can tell us on who's going to be out there, who's going to be available, and who we can expect to see?
Trevor Etienne is probably going to be suspended if I had to guess. He had a DUI that ended up being dismissed, that charge, but he had several other misdemeanor charges, driving violations that, I think he was going 30-ish miles over the speed limit and told police that he had a few beers earlier in the evening, But so I think Kirby's probably going to suspend him, but he's not saying that yet. As I mentioned earlier, I think you're going to see Branson Robinson as kind of the main guy at running back. And, they might have to rely on a walk-on, even Cash Jones, because Roderick Robinson, another experienced back that they have, has a toe injury, underwent surgery. This is a Georgia team last year that was more reliant on Carson Beck's arm and the weapons on the outside and those tight ends. So I think they will be able to run the ball still. They have one of the best offensive lines in college football, but it might be a game where you do the quick swing passes, get the ball into the playmaker's hands, or they can even put Dylan Bell again at running back on a couple of occasions, do some end arounds for Arian Smith, get the ball in his hand, a wide receiver. So I think at running back in particular, that's the one area that Georgia could be very thin for this game.
What has to go right for Clemson in order to pull the upset here and beat this Georgia team? What's the weakness that Dabo Swinney should look to attack on this Georgia football team?
I mean, if they can get the running game going, Georgia's defensive line, what was kind of the weak point against Alabama. So if Clemson can do that, if Cade Klubnik, can make some more explosive plays with these wide receivers, they don't have the type of wide receivers of Clemson that they had, back in their heyday of their playoff run, and if they can avoid, the miscues, the tackles for losses, the fumbles in the red zone, I think that's what Clemson needs to do to be able to stay with Georgia. But that defensive line in particular, the secondary, we're not sure about. I mean, they do have Starks, as we mentioned earlier, but they lost 3 NFL draft picks from their secondary. So, can Clemson exploit the inexperience there? Guys that haven't, gotten, the full complement of snaps on the back end, we'll see.
I'm not sure if you've had a chance to do it yet, but I'm going to ask you anyhow. Do you have a game prediction for this weekend for us?
I think I had it Georgia 31, Clemson 14. I mean, Georgia hasn't lost a regular season game since 2020. Clemson obviously is coming off a year where they went 4-4 in the ACC. And, I need to see it from Clemson that they're, have taken a step up, that, that this offense can be, as we mentioned earlier, a little bit more explosive. And, this offensive coordinator for Clemson was a TCU offensive coordinator for the national championship game a couple of years ago, and Georgia snuffed them out. So I think Clemson's more talented on offense. We'll see, what that looks like this time around. But it's hard to pick, Georgia to win this one close. I think they get a pretty comfortable win.